Spoken Labour. I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Kent Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken Label. Hi, it's Andy N from Spoken Label. Thank you today for streaming or downloading another episode of Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up on beginning of 2016 and as of speaking has currently nearly 300 sessions. The full archive is available on Spoken Label bandcamp.com. Although it is available for free for stream and download if you wish, I am always grateful for any sort of kind of donation to enable me to keep the running costs of this podcast going. And enjoy. Take care. Bye bye. Spoken Label.
Hi guys, Andy N. Spoken Label back in the house on a Tuesday night. I had visions then for a minute. We're on Zoom tonight when my bloody computer's about to go down on me again, and I've had issues with this last couple of days. So hopefully the gentleman I got with me today will be very patient. I'm sure he is. He's a lovely, lovely guy. Met him back in the last year, I believe it was, for Speakeasy, and he was fantastic. He really, really was. I'm not even going to tell you his name. I can keep you in anticipation for a minute, but he's originally from the Glossop area, now living in Salford, so he's perfect. Local writer, he's brilliant. Mystery guest, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them obviously who you are. Tell us obviously about, I know you said you're from Glossop originally, but you're now living in Salford, so give us a bit of a background about yourself, and we'll start from there.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, so my name's Culain Wood. I'm a spoken word performer / poet from Salford, originally from Glossop in the hills. I lived in the hills outside Glossop. I moved to Manchester when I was 18, and I've been here and there in and around Manchester and Salford ever since. I'm 33 now, so that's nearly half my life, or more than half my life.
You don't look it, mate. You don't look it, mate. I don't know you down that old, mate.
Cheers, Andy.
Yeah.
But yeah, a spoken word / poet. Spoken word performer / poet. I suppose it originally came as a frustrated musician. I was in a band for quite a long time.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Did the band not go very far? Did they all?
do you know what? You could say that. Geographically, no, not really, and I suppose in terms of success, not really either.
Yeah, well, I've done a few bands over the years, and some have done better than others. That's the best way of putting it. So, I know what you mean. So, was it then a natural transgression from obviously music then into the poetry circuit?
I suppose I used to write all the songs. So not musically, but I wrote all the lyrics. And I'd always written. I've always done, I've like half-written novels. Always written little stories. It's always been like a passion and a skill of mine. And it's sort of converted into this when there was no musical outlet for it. When there was no band to play with, I still wanted to and still needed to, make these things heard, write these things down. And I actually quite like the control that I've got over it. I don't have to rely on 3 other people. I can just do it myself.
Yeah. I've been in a band myself like that before. And I think when you jump from doing one genre to another, like you're doing your poetry now, I think you've got the control of it. It's almost like you're captain of your own ship, really, aren't you? So straight away, I know you've been doing this for a few years as well, because I know we only met at the back end of last year, I believe it was. But I know you've at least been active in 2020, weren't you? Because I've seen the video of you online from about just under 18 months ago. So when did you first start performing your poetry?
I would say that it was pre-COVID. Probably 2 or 3 open mic nights before then, and then a couple of nights when I was booked, and then obviously COVID hit, and so then from then on it was mostly videos that I was able to share. I was quite fortunate though. I shared a video just of me in my car reciting or speaking and performing a poem, and a couple of guys who were videographers actually from they were living in Manchester but they were from Estonia originally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they got in
Brilliant.
touch and said that they wanted to make a couple of videos, and I was quite, a bit skeptical at first, like, what's in it for you sort of thing. But they were top guys. Their company was Sever Film Productions, Dima Kalenda and Dennis Gimbikis, and they put together a series of films that we shot around the Worsley and Salford area of me reading my poetry, just with some amazing videography and lighting, and it just made me look 10 times better than I actually am. But, that was, I suppose, a nice way of being able to still perform throughout, when pubs were closed, when venues were closed. I was able to get it out via social media on that video.
Oh, brilliant. Well done, mate. Well done. I know what you mean. It's like, it's been a funny time, really, hasn't it? Because obviously, like, with all the venues shut what, a good 18 months, really, weren't they? So, did you actually participate in any of the Zoom poetry readings? Did you?
I didn't, and no offense to this whole setup tonight, but I'm not a big fan of Zoom. Part of my work involves Zoom, so I try and, in terms of things that are, passions and evenings, I try and keep off Zoom as much as possible. But for your podcast, Andy, I'm prepared to make an exception.
Thank you. I'm very honoured, mate. I'll be honest, I don't treat this as a proper poetry reading. Anyway, I treat it as like a chat between two friends, really, even though we only met once. And then I encourage you to read a few pieces out in the second half. So no, that's fine. I'm very honoured, mate.
But what you said about a chat between two friends, I find that all those open mic nights and the readings around Manchester, it doesn't take long before you get to know people and before you do call them friends. There's loads of people. It's so supportive.
So many. There's so many good poets out there. Great people as well. Yeah, I know loads. I know absolutely loads in it. And like it's. And what's been your favourite venue so far to perform at that? Of interest in? Have you had any favourites so far?
I loved Dulcimer for your night. I think my favourite has probably been a toss up between I did a Punk in Drublic night at Lock 91 on Deansgate.
Yeah,
and then I did one at the King's Arms for Verbose, an open mic there, and that venue is just amazing, like really high ceilings and an old sort of setting. So
it's very King's Arms, a very, very old-fashioned sort of pub. That's why. Yeah. So yeah, I've done gigs in there. Not necessarily for Verbose. I've done gigs in them myself over the years. So it's a great venue. Now, I've not been down to the Deansgate one. Locks 91 was it? He said, I know where it is. So
I think Punk and Drublic have moved around lots of different places, but when I did it, Lot 91, it was downstairs. It was just like a really cool sort of setting, like old wooden chairs. Not very comfy. Not very comfy to sit in. But, it was a nice night. It was a nice night.
Oh yeah. Tell us a bit more about your poetry itself then. Obviously, when you've been leading into it, has there been any writers that have really influenced you, or any reoccurring themes in it? Is the best way to put it.
Do you know what? I don't particularly think that there are. It stems from, a lot of it is to do with some of it's quite negative, unfortunately, but it's to do with the world, how it is now, the world that my two daughters will likely inherit, which is sometimes a little bit not negative, but not particularly hopeful, maybe. And I try to end them with a little bit of positivity and a little bit of hopefulness. And then there's also some of it. I'm quite an angry man inside sometimes, Andy, and some of it's quite scathing politically and a bit, maybe even a little bit aggressive. When we were in a band, my sort of style was quite aggressive and quite, in your face. And that's, in some ways, not always, some of them can be quite, a little bit more soft, but in some ways that style has moved across into the spoken word performance as well.
Yeah, because I get me on about it. Obviously I've seen you and I've seen your videos, and what you do, you're like a gunslinger, firing from the hips, basically, over your emotions.
Oh, I'll say that. I like that, gunslinger. But
it is really, because you're going bang bang, aren't you? You're poems all the time.
In terms of the form, though, when I'm writing, not really a particular form, and the rhymes always come just where is the natural place for them to come. I don't sit down and plan to write, to make an A-B poem. I just talk, see how it sounds. If a rhyme comes naturally, then the rhyme comes naturally. And if the rhyme takes a little bit longer to get to, then it just depends how quickly I speak. And so sometimes I find that if people were to read the poems written down, they wouldn't sound the same as they sound when I say them, because they're not able to, to sort of pick up where the line is supposed to be said a certain way. I don't know if I've explained that very well, but I think that's the power.
I got you, man.
I think that's the power of actually performing it and actually speaking it, as opposed to reading it. I think that's why open mic nights like the ones that you've put on and the ones that are on all around Manchester and Salford and everywhere are really, really important, because people get to hear the poems as they're intended to be heard.
Yeah, do we see? It's very. I think doing what you're doing in the spoken word nights, it's almost like a storytelling night based on it and find. Like you can imagine yourself sat at an old campfire 1,000 years ago doing something very similar in a somewhat different venue, of course. But no, I agree with you completely. That man, brilliant with it. So, what was your first night you ever read at?
So it was a night. It was a night called Rufus. No, it wasn't. It was a night called Lovely Words at Rufus.
Oh yeah.
In Prestwich, probably 3 years ago, maybe something like that.
Danny Murphy's night, isn't it? I'm not sure that night's still going. Actually, Danny's lovely guy. So
that was a good night, and actually, Rob Stevenson was there, who does Punk in Drublic, and it was the first time I'd obviously got up to do spoken word in that sort of way. And I sat down afterwards, and Rob sent me a little handwritten note across the table, and it was really nice, because I opened it up and it said, "You were great, fancy coming to Punk in Drublic." And I was just like, that just shows you how supportive it is, that someone had seen that, written a little note, scribbled it and sent it across the table. And I thought that was top.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great way as a poet. It's your first time up. Like, it's the first time was always the worst. I find whether you've been in a band before, you're doing something new, aren't you? And it's like, to get that sort of encouragement straight away for you, I think it's really, really important. I agree with you. Really completely not, mate. Do you have any sort of ideas where would you like yourself? Where could you see yourself be in 18 months' time? If, say, for example, if we're not gone back down the lockdown again.
Yeah. I'd love to be able to do this. Not for full-time employment, but I'd love to be able to do this more often. To do it, regular evenings, to be booked in certain places, to maybe do festivals in the summer. All that sort of stuff. It just to perform it, and I suppose to keep getting that buzz from performing it in new places with new people. That's the sort of loose aim. There's no like fixed goals, but the loose aim is to just do it as much as possible, to keep writing, to keep doing new things, and keep meeting new people, and not just saying what I'm saying, but listening to what they're saying as well. Because I think there's a lot of sometimes there's a lot of emphasis on me, but actually those nights when you just get 4 or 5 minutes to do something, that's your 4 or 5 minutes, but there's 2 other hours where there's other people saying, do you know what I mean? They're saying what they want to say.
Yeah. No, I agree with you completely. Have you found, obviously, with you being obviously fairly active now, obviously things are opening up again, and have you found has your work changed much, giving you direction since you first started this?
I feel like as I've done it more often and I've gauged the reaction, I feel like I've changed slightly in my style. So like I said before, like the gunslinger style, that's still there, but I'll maybe linger a little bit longer on certain words for for impact, or I'll put extra emphasis on a rhyme that's that's had a particular reaction. And so taking that feedback from audiences and from what people say, it really shapes the next one that you do. And I think that can only improve it as well. If you respond to what people have said, or to where people have laughed, or to where people have clicked, because I know that sometimes happens. I don't understand that myself, but I appreciate it when they do. And if you respond to that, then it changes the next performance of it. And then each one is never the same, because each one you're responding to not just the audience that are there, but to the previous audiences that you've had, knowing what's worked, what hasn't worked, all that sort of stuff.
I'm always believing that sort of thing, where I've done it myself in time, where you've actually been trying new poems out, and you might go on to your next gig and the one after, and say half a dozen gigs later, the piece might be radically different to the way it was when it first started. I think everything is a learning process, particularly when you try and perform it like that. Is it, either gunslinger or storyteller mode, whatever you approach it. I think it's pieces evolve naturally sometimes to do.
Yeah. I'm going to nick that gunslinger, I think.
Well, if you want me to, then you can put a quote from Andy N says, Culain Wood, the best gunslinger with words in Manchester.
All right.
Brilliant. Okay, mate. Well, to be honest, that's pretty well covered on questions anyway. So what I want to spend most of the time today to get you read some pieces out of us in the second half. Now, if people want to find out more about you, say for example, when they want to contact you, what's the best method?
I would say that I've not got a spoken word or poet performer page up on Facebook. I've not got a spoken word or performer page, website. Just to look out over the open mic nights and spoken word nights that are coming up over the next couple of months, because I'm booked onto quite a few, and I feel like coming to see it is the best way, and then having a chat afterwards is the best way.
That's fair. Fair play, mate. And if people want to get hold of your bookings, they can always drop me a message and I'll pass in a message on, so that's fine with me, mate. So
all right, mate, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll take a quick break then, everybody, then, and we'll let Culain get ready for us, and he's going to do a few pieces in the second half. See you soon.
Spoken, mate.
Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is pretty self-explanatory. It's called Stop Watching the News. Stop watching the news. It's bad for your health. You don't need the BBC to educate yourself. Sky Only Lie and CNN chat pure maca. Russia Today is about as much use as an empty maraca. Give it a shake and it won't make a sound about the FTSE 100 or the rate of the pound. When I first heard of the idea, I thought it was crazy that not watching the news was apathetic and lazy. Well, I gave it a go and then, whoops-a-daisy, I felt better. I no longer felt stressed. I no longer felt depressed. I no longer struggled to get myself dressed in the morning. Honestly, there's far more productive things to do, like watching paint dry or sticking your fingers together with glue, and both of those things will do so much more for you than watching the news. If it's something important like a war, then I'll tell you. If I need to warn you about a storm, then I'll bell you, because you don't need to believe all the stuff that they sell you and finally succumb to the blues. Stop watching the news. The second one, ironically, starts with the line, I was watching the news. So
I like that. That's symmetry and a half, that one, mate, straight away.
I'll go for that one now. So I was watching the news today. And it was all about a terrorist attack. When the girls came into the room, and then I had to turn it back onto the cartoons they'd been watching just a half an hour before. And I don't think they saw anything, but I can't be absolutely sure that they didn't see the body bags and the bloody rags strewn out across the pavement. Or the other story before it about the DWP missing payments to a pensioner who'd worked all her life to end up skint. And I'm sorry, but how can a clerical error possibly ever lead into someone to jump into a quarry? Well, it did, I'm afraid, and that's a fact, and someone has to protest. Because the party line is hardly fine when they barely even confess that in the age of the computer, when the internet runs a system, that an old lady can't pay her bills and see her family again to kiss them and say goodbye for one last time and wish that things were better. And so they'll cry and wonder why, as they read aloud the letter that she wrote before she chose to take herself off to meet her maker. And in that note, she calmly spoke about the blokes that came to take her television and her decision that she took, but with great deliberation. And the apology that followed the event is no commiseration, but in the grand scheme of things, is it all that significant? When the hackers reveal massacres of the infirm and of the innocent that occur across the earth on an almost daily basis, only confined to all mankind, to all religions and all races. So I grab hold of the remote and I turn the cartoons off with urgency. And we sit together in silence and hear of murder and insurgencies, look at the faces of the racists as they climb up onto their podium. And even though the girls beg me to turn it back to Nickelodeon, I refuse, because I choose to let them make up their own minds about how a court can ask a jury to say whether they find a molester, a protester, a robber, or a saviour. Guilty or not, the sentence they got will be half for good behaviour, and they'll be out without a doubt before the girls even left school. This is the world. This is it, girls, and I'll make sure that nobody's fooling to think of the MP's policies and what they promised me or with the paper they are written on. So the question, a suggestion after I have long been and gone, so that when someone or no one gets up to face a pantomime panel, they'll watch it before they turn it over to the Disney Channel, because to be ignorant is one thing, to be absent is quite another. And if we educate the young, there's half a chance we might recover from the incoherent lack of action that has spread like HIV and AIDS, and the spirit and the passion will live on after the hate in me fades, because hate is a powerful emotion, yeah, but it's only half as strong as hope, and we can only give them
Whoa. Wow.
We fucked it up at the end there. And
do you want to redo the full piece again, mate, or what? It's up to you.
Do you know what? No, not really. I'll just do the last line, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do some editing for you, okay?
You don't need to edit. I'll just do the last line, okay? So let me remember what it is. Hate is a powerful emotion, yeah, but it's only half as strong as hope. And we can only set the wheels in motion if we give them enough rope to string a few sentences together and do more than we ever thought we could. And then they'll have learnt their lessons, yeah, like every daughter should.
Tremendous, mate. Now I've got to ask you something we didn't touch on in the interview before, was particularly the first two pieces. So obviously, like I know you do. At the time I met you, you do all your pieces from memory. Do you find is it quite hard to memorize your pieces?
I suppose in the first instance, yeah, but then as soon as you've got it, although that might be the perfect example, I got to the end of a 2.5 minute piece and then ballsed it up. But I don't know. I like to do it like that because I like to make sure that I'm looking at people when I'm saying it, not to scare them, or because I'm a different.
You don't scare me, mate. I'm too old for that.
just because that's the way that I like to do it. I feel like there's more of a connection that way.
No, it's fair play. I think it does. People, in my case, I can't do it. So I'm dyslexic, so I've got no chance of memorizing pieces. But your case it works your persona, you as a person, straight away. I can see that. So good stuff, mate. Yeah. Okay.
Like you just saw, it goes wrong at the end.
Yeah, occasionally happens. And the way I look at it, mate, you're only human, aren't we? So, okay, mate. On to number 3 then.
Okay. So the next one is one of the first ones that I recorded, and it's quite an emotional one for me because it's about an issue that I had with my back for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And it's still going on really, but a lot of people relate to it in a different way. And it's called There's a Dog Barking. There's a dog barking at the end of our street, and she swears that she can't hear it. There's the East Lancs and the motorway, and even they don't come near it in terms of deafening me and threatening me and making me close the curtain. It's confusing at times, like I'm choosing to mind, but I know it. And I'm certain that there's a dog barking at the end of our street, and I can hear it in the nighttime. It always starts up and it never shuts up. And even though there's never a right time, it is an aggravating bark, and it is in agitating, stark contrast to the noise and the fuss that I used to hear, to the hum and the buzz that I used to fear when I couldn't hear that fucking dog barking. And I don't remember it starting. It was way before I moved over here. I've been hearing it now for 5 fucking years, and so the bastard must have followed me. And the noise has somehow hollowed me out of the person that I was into a living, breathing shell. And a passerby with the naked eye would never be able to tell that all I can hear is a barking dog on repeat, on snooze, on silent. And all I can think of when I hear that dog is of defeat or to lose and to be violent. There's a dog barking at the end of our street, and it hasn't got a lead on. It won't come out of the gate, and it hasn't got out to feed on. So I go into the street to give it something to eat, but just as I call it to come, the volume will drop and the barking will stop. And I have to think of some other thing to complain about, some other thing to be in pain about, because I realize life's a drain without. The thing I go fucking insane without and couldn't possibly be Culain without is that fucking dog barking. It's louder than a bin lorry parking. It's more piercing than its claws that could stab me. And from the first minute I heard it, it had me right where it wanted me to be, pinned up in the corner for everyone to see. It's that lad who is a dog that no one else is. You must be mad to hear a dog when there are no dogs near. But there's a dog barking at the end of our street. I swear down, I'm telling you, there is.
Oh, we've got that where we live in a minute, because there's a time I could really relate to that, because we've got a dog that goes off about 3 in the bloody morning sometimes.
So it's a literal one.
Yes, a literal one, yeah. There's not ours. It's a grown up like a block of flats, and a dog on the 2 streets down. I worked at where he is, and they shove him out at 2 in the morning. He makes a right racket, he does. Anyway, mate, brilliant stuff anyway, mate. I could relate to that. Okay, mate. On to the big conclusion, as I always say.
So yeah, this one is it's a poem called Just What on Earth, and it sums up what I was saying about how a lot of my poetry is for my 2 children, my 2 little girls, and the world that they will inherit, and hopefully the message will come across from the words. It's called Just What on Earth. Just what on earth will I tell my girls when they're 24 and 19? About the way we've left the world for them and about the things they might have seen when they're queuing up at the food bank or at the fountain for a drink. How will I explain it no matter what? We never took the time to think that you can meet and driving cars with things we could have done without. And even at breaking point and the point of realization, we carried on and on in doubt of all the skeptics with their septic tanks full to bursting point with nonsense. And how we trusted the mistrusted and we misjudged it in more than one sense because it's double and it's triple. It's 4 times worse than we thought. And at my age, we can't blame ignorance, because when we were at school, they taught us about the forests and the ozone and the greenhouse gas effect, about the oil and the dodo and the way nature selects the rich ones from the poor ones and washes them all out with a wave. Or is it the weak ones from the strong ones, and it's only the money that can save us from the disasters that their masters from overseas were underneath, and that the ones sent to save us were the ones sent to bring relief from the cholera and the chlorine that half the world still have to drink, while the other half are even less pretend that no one's on the brink of a precipice, a bottomless pit, or on the tip of a floating block of ice that hides beneath the surface. You don't see it unless you look twice, but twice is 2 times too many when your smartphone starts to ping and we're hashtagging with the cash bragging that we're all about to bring an end to homelessness and hostilities with a free meal and a warm embrace, when we should have been armed to the teeth and engaged in a barefoot fucking race from Manchester down the M6 straight to London in our droves to drive out the cockroaches and to string up Michael Gove. But we didn't do it, sweethearts, because we had to go to work. And so the planet's on its arse and the weather's gone berserk, but the fracking has just started. So we might all be warm soon as the riches of the bitches and the bastards move to the moon to create a new haven for the depraved and the emotionally bereft. We escape civilization whilst the rest of us are left back on this planet that we inhabit and use as our dumping ground. And we'll wait with bated breath until we hear the thumping sound of the missiles and the virile chants of hatred and of war. And we'll lift our heads above the parapet like we should have done before to see your cousins by the dozens and your mum's good-looking mate fall by the wayside. And when they've died, well, we'll know it's too fucking late.
Hey, great conclusion, mate. Wow.
Cheers,
I would have had no chance of memorising all that brilliant stuff, mate. So tremendous, mate. I've really enjoyed it today, mate. So thank you again, mate, for that. Hang around, because I do need to quit with you off microphone anyway. So we'll stop recording now, everybody. And as Don Callis says up Impact Wrestling, stay safe and stay over. We'll see you all next time.
Spoken, mate.